Hi, everyone. Mike White here. Welcome to this week's blog post. Crazy roller coaster ride with the bond market the last few weeks. And I think now's the time, based upon some of the feedback I'm getting from the marketplace and some of the things I'm seeing, even some things contained in social media that people are sharing with me, that it really is now is the time to make sure that as professional originators, we're being really clear and being really real with our potential borrowers, our buyers, the people that we're working with, and even our referral partners, because there's some things that are going on in this marketplace that are getting emphasized because of market conditions. And again, bond market's been all over the place. There's rapid movement in both directions over the past few weeks. And we also, are dealing with the fact that many originators that are struggling to produce loans are sometimes they're out there and they're hoping and promising to give rates and fees to people uh, that currently, to be honest with you, don't exist, and they're doing so to attract business. And while this is nothing new for our industry, and we've seen those who were desperate to attract volume. But now it looks like they're taking it to a whole new level, and it's really going to hurt people in the process. And some of it has to do with not only the dishonesty about the people, what they're putting out there, but you know, they may be hoping that the volatility makes that deal come true. And in the same token, that volatility can run that deal so far the other way that there's no way that deal is ever going to come together at even remotely a close price. And to be honest, probably nothing's going to happen to that originator or that company that puts that information out there, other than maybe a bad review or a tirade on social media about how somebody said something and whatever. And many hide behind the fact that, oh well, that was on a pre-approval and that wasn't guaranteed, and you can't lock in, it's not a deal until you lock in the rate. And that may very well be true for sure. But when you're out there putting things on a pre-approval letter and using numbers that quite frankly probably don't exist in the in the marketplace the day that you're putting it out there, so that it quote unquote appears that you've got the best deal and the lowest fees and all that other stuff, that's sort of an old bait and switch tactic. And in today's market, it gets harder and harder for people to deal with that. You and I both know people don't like delivering bad news. So what happens? These people are out there pre-approved, looking for property. They find property, they go into contract on the property, and now here we go. They're out there and they're all excited about their chance at home ownership. And the loan officer realizes that person is, based upon where the current market is and the money they thought they could borrow based upon a rate and closing costs that were given to them that may not have been accurate. And then now, instead of just telling them when they go into contract that the market has changed, they kind of get strung along because now that loan officer is hoping that something's going to happen in the market and rates are going to come down and make it closer or whatever. And there goes the customer, and they're spending money for appraisal fees and inspections and all sorts of other things related, maybe even given notice on where they're currently living, or maybe selling their own house or doing whatever it is that they're doing, hiring a mover and setting dates and all these other things going into it. And that loan officer is silent. And they keep kicking the can down the road until eventually somebody has to tell this customer that they no longer qualify, that they, rates are now at a spot where, based upon where they are today and what the fees would be, that deal's not even remotely possible. Not in a million years. It's not going to happen. And yes, I know, well, they said, hey, it's, here we are. we put this out there and that was, you were pre-approved of that, but the market moved and blah. And it would take a really good investigation to go back and look at the bond market and look at what was available and whatever. And and I know that that's never going to happen. That customer is going to be pissed off, and maybe that loan officer, skates around it or dances around it or whatever, because they can hide behind the fact that, it was a pre-approval and it was based upon, a set of numbers, but it was said right on there that this isn't a locked-in rate, the rate's not guaranteed, whatever. But that's not what the customer thinks, and that's not what the customer believes. And you know it, and I know it if you've been in the business long enough, that these things happen. And sometimes maybe the customer still qualifies, and maybe they have to spend more money than they thought, or maybe they have a place where they can get a gift or something. But in some cases, this could very well push these people out of home ownership, potentially forever. It may not be recoverable. They're never getting that appraisal money back. They're never getting that inspection money back. They're not getting the things that they tied in, the money they may lose for securing the movers or whatever. And maybe housing prices don't ever come back, and maybe interest rates never come back. And maybe these people are so shell-shocked about what happened to them, they can't trust the process anymore, and they're doomed because they were out there and they were shopping for somebody who convinced them that they had the best deal. And when they did their due diligence and were checking around, they did just enough to find out that a handful of other people quoted them what may have been the very real rates of the day. And you know what? The people who told the truth didn't get a chance to fully explain what was going on. And this is the point here. We've all seen this stuff happen. We've all been around when people get bait and switched or things move again. It's bad enough when the market does move dramatically the wrong way against people. But sometimes, as certain lenders, and it's been my experience in the past, will bend over backwards and do what they can to do to bring the deal home when it's legitimate. But in other cases, it's just not possible. It's just not possible. And again, there's not the likelihood that there's going to be any damage to that originator or that company that was involved in that process. So please, what I'm asking you to do this week is understand that when we're doing our pre-approvals, when we're talking to people, it is always about the payment. And you've heard me say frequently about giving people payment ranges of where interest rates might be one way or the other, so that they can see for themselves on any given day, if they borrow this much money at this particular interest rate, this is what the monthly payments are going to be. Give them honest closing costs. The loan officers out there who disclose 1 day's per diem interest are not doing anybody any favors, because we know most of the time people are not paying 1 day's per diem interest. It's much more likely that they're going to pay significantly more than that. And for some people, it can make all the difference in the world. And you have to take that into consideration. So be clear, be real, prepare your borrowers, especially at pre-approval. Tell them what goes on in the marketplace. Show them what ranges can be. Show them how it impacts their payment. Make sure they're prepared what happens if they need that payment to be where it needs to be, and they may have to come up with a point or two to make the deal happen. Is there a place that money can come from if it were necessary? Because you know what? It may not be what they want to hear, but it will be what they need to hear. And is that going to stop what goes on? No, it's not going to stop, because there are people who are going to go out there and they're going to search the internet. You and I both know people who shop for the best possible deal on the internet end up working with the best liar on the internet. And those deals, please call me if one of them ever really closes, because it's not ever been my ability to actually see that a deal that was too good to be true actually ended up closing under the exact terms and conditions as they were promised. Because to be honest with you right now, honesty and integrity is in short supply with a lot of people, and we have to be better than that. And yes, it may cost us a couple of opportunities here and there, But the reality of it is some of the people that you're going to protect and you're going to save are going to make it all worthwhile. As always, if you have questions or comments, it's Mike at imtcoaching.com. We'll look again to talk to you real soon. Take care.